Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a moment of history where revolution tasted like stale bread, justice wore too many wigs, and enthusiasm was mandatory by law. Welcome to your first day as one of the earliest French revolutionaries. You just arrived, and I regret to inform you, you are already on a committee. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments, what city are you in, and what time is it where you are? I love knowing when and where you're listening. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our Chrome extension allows you to listen to web pages, Google Docs, online Kindle books, and emails directly from the browser. Add it to Chrome for free. You don't remember how exactly you got here. 1 minute you were nibbling on a croissant in 2025, and the next you're blinking in the sunlight of 1793 Paris, wearing slightly itchy linen and standing between two men enthusiastically arguing about whether prison uniforms should include feathers. Your boots are dusty, your hair smells faintly of goat, and your name has apparently been entered into some sort of revolutionary registry. A cheerful woman in a patched red scarf greets you with a clipboard and says, "You're just in time. We need you in the friendship committee." You blink. Friendship. What? She smiles. It's like a welcome committee. But we also design punishments. You are now 32% sure this is a dream or a prank. You are handed a sash. It reads, "Revolutionary Citizen. The first task of the day, attend your first meeting." You walk through the city's winding alleys, every corner plastered with hand-painted slogans like "Freedom is not optional" and "Hang the monarchy, but keep the tailoring." Someone hands you a turnip and says, "Solidarity snack," and vanishes into the crowd. The meeting is held in what looks like an abandoned wine cellar, converted into a brainstorming bunker. At the door, someone checks your shoelaces for hidden monarchist sympathies. You pass, barely. Inside, a dozen or so citizens sit around a splintered wooden table, surrounded by scrolls, inkpots, and 3 chickens. One of the chickens is wearing a tiny tricolor ribbon. A man with wild eyes and a powdered wig made entirely of straw slams the table. "Comrades, today we decide what counts as insufficiently passionate posture." You sit down slowly. You're not sure how to hold your arms anymore. The woman beside you whispers, "Don't slouch. They'll think you're nostalgic." Someone claps too hard. Everyone stares. The clapper apologizes and is reassigned to the Bread Fairness Subcommittee. You write a note in your mind. Applause volume equals career risk. The discussion moves fast. New crimes are proposed. Unrevolutionary sneezing to lukewarm patriotism. Walking too aristocratically in public parks. Then they ask for new members to suggest something. You try to look busy, but someone already pointed at you. "The new guy," a voice says. "What should we add?" Your mind races. What would be harmless enough to sound useful, but not dangerous? You blurt out, "What if people who talk too slowly have to wear bells, so we know they're not plotting?" Silence. Then laughter. Then nodding. A woman scribbles it down on a scroll titled, "Passive Subversion Countermeasures." You just made your first official contribution to the revolution. Congrats. You are now 47% more suspicious of yourself. The rest of the meeting is a blur of outrageous suggestions and intense eye contact. You nod a lot. You hum occasionally. You avoid saying the word, probably. At the end of the meeting, you are handed a welcome scroll, a satchel full of symbolic turnip seeds, and a leaflet titled, "So you're in a revolutionary committee. What now?" It includes tips like, "Smile, but not too nostalgically. Don't overuse liberté in small talk. Avoid lavender unless it's ironic. If accused, counter-accuse. And most importantly, if someone asks if you're a spy, laugh. But only briefly. You walk home with your head buzzing and your shoes slightly squeaking. Uh-oh. That evening, In your tiny shared room above the Herbal Vinegar Cooperative, you open your notebook and write. First day in revolutionary Paris. Assigned to Friendship Committee. Accidentally invented slow-talking bells. Witnessed chicken applause enforcement. Pretty sure I was almost accused of bourgeois laces. You blow out the candle. The air smells like turnips and fresh panic. You whisper to yourself, maybe tomorrow I'll just keep my mouth shut. Outside, someone yells. All committee members report to the hat color approval chamber. You roll over, face and pillow. Welcome to the revolution. The rooster crows. Which is weird, because you haven't seen a rooster all day, just a man with feathery shoulder pads and a very committed strut. You open your eyes slowly. Your hair is still attached. You pat your head. That's a win. But as you climb down the ladder from your sleeping loft, you notice something odd. People are staring at your hair. A little too long, a little too clean, a little too still attached to your head. You make it 2 blocks before someone yells, "Is that a ponytail?" You freeze. Then whisper to yourself, "I was just trying a rustic look." Someone else points. That's definitely a soft wave. Very pre-revolution. You walk faster. Today's task: avoid being mistaken for a hairstyle monarchist. This is harder than it sounds. You pass 3 new posters on your way to the committee pavilion. All curls are counter-revolutionary. Shave with solidarity. Don't let your bangs betray the cause. You pull your scarf up a little higher, trying to hide your very average, very unfortunate hair. At the pavilion, the air is tense. Someone is crying softly while a man in a robe sharpens a wooden comb. There's a sign-in table. A woman smiles too brightly and says, "Welcome to the People's Bureau of Visual Allegiance." You sign your name, or at least you sign something that kind of looks like it. Your hand is shaking. You're handed a mirror and a pamphlet. The mirror shows your reflection. The pamphlet says, "How revolutionary is your hair?" Page 1. Side part equals aristocracy. Center part equals indecisive. No part equals suspiciously strategic. Wig equals we need to talk. You glance around. A man with a shaved head is being cheered. Someone else is holding a basket of hair, other people's. You try to slip out. Too late. Someone grabs your shoulder and announces, "The citizen will now undergo style alignment." You are ushered into a small room filled with steam and judgment. A hair judge, yes, that's a real position, circles you with a measuring stick and a ruler. He mutters, a touch too volumized. You whisper, "I slept on straw." He frowns, "Likely story." They ask you to justify your look. You panic. "My hair represents the duality of revolutionary tension." The parting? It splits like society. The length? A symbol of the guillotine's mercy. And the frizz? The frizz is emotional unrest. Silence. Then a single clap. Then 3 more. Then, not bad. We'll still cut it. But you may keep a certificate. You are given a ribbon labeled ideologically transitional hair, and also a hat, a very large one. It's called a modesty bonnet. It covers almost everything but your ears and doubt. You leave the bureau with your head lower than usual, also because the hat's kind of heavy. Back on the street, you pass a mobile haircut station. A child is getting a revolutionary mohawk while eating cabbage soup. You hear 2 older women whisper. They say if your hair falls on the wrong floorboard, it can curse the Republic. You nod politely. Back at your room, you sit in front of the cracked mirror and evaluate your new silhouette. You whisper, "I look like a turnip going to confession." You write in your notebook, "Survived Visual Allegiance Review. Hair equals acceptable-ish. Received certificate and emergency bonnet. Invented frizz as resistance theory. Possible turnip resemblance confirmed." You place the ribbon in your bag with the others. Your scalp tingles, possibly from nerves, possibly from steam trauma. That night, you dream of scissors chasing you through the streets. You wake up at midnight to the sound of loud knocking. A voice yells through the door. Tomorrow is hat rotation day. Everyone to the plaza by sunrise. You curl into your blanket and whisper, maybe if I shave my head in my sleep, they'll promote me. You start the morning with optimism. A warm roll, a window cracked open. Only 3 new revolutionary posters on your door. Today, you tell yourself, is going to be normal. You are wrong, because today is election day. And in revolutionary Paris, voting isn't just a civic duty. It's a theatrical performance with consequences. You stroll toward the voting pavilion, whistling the opening notes of La Marseillaise and practicing your best I care about democracy face. At the corner, a man is shouting. Voting is the heartbeat of liberty. He's standing on an actual heart-shaped platform made of bread. That feels symbolic and also unsanitary. At the entrance to the polling tent, a woman in red robes checks your documents. You hand her your citizen badge, your emotional sincerity slip, and a coupon for revolutionary soup. She eyes you. You haven't voted before, have you? You admit the truth. First time. She marks your forehead with ink. Fresh participant. Inside the tent is dramatic. Silk banners hang from the ceiling. One reads, "A hesitation is a betrayal." You're handed a wooden coin and guided to 2 boxes. One labeled yes, the other labeled yes, with passion. A man whispers behind you, "I heard someone once said maybe." They haven't been seen since. You approach the boxes. Your hand trembles. You pick the box on the left. You drop the coin. It makes a sound like guilt. Someone nearby squints at you. A scribe writes something down. You walk away slowly, too slowly. Hesitant stride, someone murmurs. You try to speed up. Now he's running from accountability, someone else says. You stop entirely. Now he's obstructing democratic flow. You crouch down and pretend to tie your boot. A judge appears. Citizen, do you have something to hide under there? You blink. Only a blister? You are handed a notice. Referred to the Bureau of Participation Compliance. You whisper, "No." They whisper back, "Yes." You are escorted to a side tent labeled Democracy Correction Chamber. Inside are several chairs, none of them comfortable. You sit on one made of loosely woven rope. What would Robespierre clap for? It squeaks when you move. Very counter-revolutionary. A man in a crimson vest asks, "Why did you vote with insufficient enthusiasm?" You try. "I was deeply inspired." Just. Quietly. He frowns. Quiet inspiration is indistinguishable from sarcasm. He hands you a worksheet titled, "What would Robespierre clap for?" You're required to circle 10 things. All of them say the people. You circle them all. Twice. Then comes the essay portion. Describe your emotional arc while inserting your voting token. You write. At first, nervous. Then, patriotic. Finally, itchy from forehead ink. The official size. You'll need to recast your vote. This time in public. You are escorted to the main square, where a stage has been set up. A crowd gathers. You are handed a larger voting coin, painted red. A man announces, "This citizen will now demonstrate their full commitment to participatory decision-making." You drop the coin into a carved wooden box while maintaining direct eye contact with the crowd. Someone plays a lute. The audience applauds, measured and rhythmic. You are handed a small wooden plaque that reads, "Recovered Democrat." Back at home, you place the plaque next to your moderately expressive ribbon and your spiritually humble shoe rhetoric badge. Your shelf now looks like it belongs to a motivational speaker who got lost in the 18th century. You write in your notebook, voted twice. First time not enthusiastic enough. Second time involved lute music. Suspected of hesitating. Survived emotional arc essay. You sigh and blow out the candle. Outside your window, someone walks by yelling. Tomorrow's workshop. Slogan chanting with authentic conviction. You groan into your blanket. Maybe I'll chant in lowercase. You stretch your arms. Today, you tell yourself, will be the day you blend in. You will not clap too early. You will not clap too late. You will clap the perfect amount. This proves difficult. You arrive at the National Assembly building, a former opera house, now repurposed for political overacting. Inside, stone columns support banners that read, "Clarity through choreographed applause." Volume is not virtue. Hand enthusiasm must be state-calibrated. You clutch your new handbook. Clapping, a citizen's guide to measured zeal. You studied it last night. You memorized the chart. 1 clap equals passive. 2 claps equals polite. 3 claps equals suspiciously dramatic. 4 equals possible counter-revolutionary mockery disguised as zeal. You take your seat. Wooden, uncomfortable, emotionally judgmental. A speaker takes the stage. He adjusts his cuffs with the grace of someone who has rehearsed for this his entire life. He begins. Comrades, citizens, applause units. The crowd claps twice. You clap twice. Then your palms slip. Your third clap hits the air like a gunshot. Silence. All heads turn. You freeze. Then slowly raise your hand and say, "That was a hand cramp of solidarity." Someone writes something down. A woman in a blue sash approaches. "Citizen, please accompany me for palm calibration." You are led through a curtain into a side chamber labeled Reactive Gesture Reassessment Room. Inside are chairs, diagrams, and a wooden dummy with overly detailed hands. You are asked to demonstrate 3 types of claps. Polite alignment, moderate approval, non-sarcastic consensus echo. You try your best. But your right hand makes a little pop sound on the third clap. The woman raises an eyebrow. Too much wrist action. Could be interpreted as emotional overreach. She hands you a scroll. Temporary relocation to clapping rehabilitation circle. You are now part of a focus group. 12 people sit in a circle, practicing expressionless applause under the supervision of a man named Gerald. Gerald claps like a ghost with regrets. He demonstrates the silent enthusiasm method. Hands raise. Palms hover. No actual contact. You mimic him. It feels hollow. Which is the point? During break, a man beside you whispers, "I once accidentally gave a standing ovation. I had to paint revolutionary slogans on 200 turnips." You nod. "I once clapped 3 times. He gasps. The group stares. Reckless, someone murmurs. Eventually, you're cleared to return. You are assigned an official title. Applause Sensitivity Steward Grade D. Your job is to sit in assemblies and track suspicious hands. At your first shift, a delegate claps slightly off rhythm. You log it in your book. You feel horrible, but also slightly respected. You head home late, your palms aching from overanalysis. A boy passes you a flyer. You read. Too much passion? You may be eligible for overseas recalibration. You stop. Overseas. He nods. We call it reflective relocation. It's mostly cliffs and goats. You keep walking. Back in your attic, you sit in the dark, notebook in your lap. You write. Clapped wrong. Entered palm correction circle. Met Gerald. AM, now a steward of clapping balance. May be sent to goat-infested cliff region, if not careful. You close the notebook, then reach under your pillow and gently clap once. Not too soft, not too loud, just enough. From the hallway, a voice calls out, "Who just clapped?" You blow out the candle. "I regret everything. You just wanted a drink." A simple one, not symbolic, not politically loaded, just fermented grape juice in a wooden cup. But in revolutionary Paris, nothing is just anything. You were thirsty. You were handed a cup. You drank. Now you are being interrogated. The man across the table wears a sash that reads, "Beverage Integrity Marshal." He also wears 3 monocles, none of which are over his eyes. He taps his feather quill and says, "Do you know whose cup that was?" You shrug. No one said anything. He slams the table. That was a Jacobin's herbal cordial, his favorite blend, a symbol of unity and digestive health. You blink. You drank symbolic licorice without authorization. You try to explain, "I was parched." He waves a scroll in the air. Parched is not a legal defense. You are handed parchment. At the top, violation, consuming political liquids without alignment declaration. You are sentenced to reflective beverage discipline, which is how you end up inside the confession barrel. It's a large wooden vat lined with small thorns and revolutionary pamphlets. It smells like vinegar, regret, and wet poetry. You are lowered in by 2 solemn guards while a third one reads your rights in rhyme. Inside the barrel, it's squishy. You sit on a layer of damp tracts titled, "Respect the Stew of the Masses." You are told to sit there until you are thoroughly ideologically marinated. Time passes slowly. People occasionally walk by and toss in herbs. Basil, rosemary, once an angry fennel bulb. You begin to hallucinate. You see a pigeon with a powdered wig whispering about truth. You write a poem in your head titled, "Ode to Regretful Sipping." You lose track of time. Eventually, the barrel is tapped from the outside. A voice asks, "Do you feel realigned?" You answer, "I feel deeply herbal." That is the correct answer. You are helped out. Someone hands you a towel and a pamphlet titled, "How to Ask Before You Sip." You are also given a ribbon, infused with reflection, level 1. You walk home barefoot. Your shoes were confiscated for premature dryness. Back at your attic, you dry your socks over a candle and write, "Accidentally drank symbolic licorice." Spent 3 hours in Thorn Barrel. Met hallucinated pigeon. Now smell like fennel and regret. Will always ask before sipping again. You sigh. Then someone knocks on your window. It's not a person. It's a scroll tied to a brick. You unroll it. Notice, you have been selected for flavor standardization training. You clutch your towel tighter. Not the Flavor Bureau. Not again. You wake up damp and herb-scented. The fennel from yesterday is still in your pocket. You try to convince yourself today will be quiet, peaceful, possibly dry. You are, of course, wrong, because today is Visual Loyalty Inspection Day. You only learn this fact when a knock at the door reveals a man in crimson leggings and a clipboard. "Citizen," he says, "we are conducting street-level hue verifications." You blink. Hue. He frowns. Color loyalty, particularly red. He hands you a pamphlet titled, "Revolutionary Red. How red is red enough?" You flip through. Blood red equals acceptable. Brick red equals suspiciously nostalgic. Rose red equals decadent. Burgundy equals monarchist. Pink equals what even is that? You look down at your clothes. Gray-blue waistcoat. Faded brown trousers. You resemble a confused librarian. The inspector gasps. "No red." You stammer. "I have a scarf." You pull out a crumpled piece of cloth from your bag. It might once have been red. Now it looks more cranberry in shadow. He clutches his pearls, metaphorical. but you feel them rattle. You'll have to come with me. You are escorted to the Department of Revolutionary Style Expression. The building is painted entirely in various tones of red. There are guards and fabric swatches, and 3 people sobbing quietly because their socks weren't passionate enough. You are guided to a wardrobe evaluation chamber. A woman in a flamingo-shaped hat gestures at you. Undress, then redress. You have 3 minutes. You panic. You are shown a rack of clothing. It's all red, but not all the right red. You try a deep scarlet tunic. Someone shakes their head. Too confident. You try rust red. Too rural. You reach for wine red. Sirens go off. Finally, you grab something labeled regulated crimson no. For inch and hope for the best. You step out. Everyone stares. A child gasps, "That's medium revolutionary." A judge nods slowly. You are handed a ribbon, visually aligned. Then someone hands you a mirror. You look like a cranberry at a funeral. Then there's the enthusiasm test. You are placed in front of a large red canvas and asked to explain how your outfit represents revolutionary fervor without invoking individualism, fashion, or historical irony. You speak. My tunic flows with the pulse of progress. The folds, collective effort. The shade, born from shared suffering. The stitching, a metaphor for interwoven destiny. Someone faints from approval. You are promoted to Tier 2 hue contributor. You are now allowed to wear a single accessory, not in red, as long as it's beige and registered. You choose a beige pocket rock. It has no function. That's how they know it's safe. On the way out, you pass a man in blue. He is being surrounded. You do not look. You walk home in stiff crimson linen. Back at the attic, you write, survived hue inspection. Changed clothes 4 times. Described folds as political. Now own government-approved rock. May never wear blue again. You place the ribbon beside your other tokens. You lie on your straw mattress and mutter, I miss gray. Then, as you close your eyes, someone slides a scroll under your door. You unroll it. You have been selected for the Repentant Poetry Initiative. Please begin rhyming immediately. You groan. You reach for your beige rock. It doesn't help. The scroll says, repent in rhyme or reflect in exile. That feels a bit dramatic. But then again, this is a city where a man was recently exiled for using adjectives considered too nostalgic. You sit at your desk. A candle flickers. Your beige pocket rock watches silently. You whisper, okay, I can write a poem. How hard could it be? Answer, extremely. The instructions are clear. 10 stanzas minimum. Must be in couplets. May not use the word liberté more than once. Absolutely no use of metaphor unless accompanied by footnotes. All rhymes must be certified revolutionary. You panic. Your last experience with poetry involved doodling bad sonnets in a math notebook in 8th grade. Now, poetry is punishment. You write the title, An Ode to Oversight. Then stare at the blank page for 45 minutes. You try. I once believed in bread and stew, but now I'm told my socks must too. You hate it. You keep going. Eventually, after a long caffeine-free afternoon, you manage to assemble a stack of 10 wrinkled pages. You hand them in. A stern-looking man flips through them silently, making noises like HM, and Tiskin once, oh no. He stops at stanza 7. What exactly do you mean by my conscience grows like moss? You blink. That it's slow and green. He nods. Acceptable, but be careful. You are told to wait in the reflection nook, a velvet curtain corner full of anxious poets holding sad scrolls. A woman whispers, I tried to rhyme truth with tooth. They made me chew turnip leaves for an hour. Another says, someone used the word soul twice in one page. They're in the punishment tent now. You nod. Eventually, you are called. Your poem is accepted, with 6 citations required and a footnote explaining stanza 3's tone. You are handed a new ribbon, poetic compliance level 1, and a voucher for a one-time metaphor amnesty, to be used only during state holidays. As you walk home, the clouds shift. It's raining slightly. You want to call it a melancholy mist, but you resist. Back in your attic, you write, rhymed under duress, used moss metaphor successfully, earned ribbon, denied adjective privileges for 1 week. Still think truth rhymes with tooth if you try hard enough. You sigh. You lie back and let your brain float. Just for a moment. Then a new knock. No scroll this time. Just a woman in a blue coat holding a black cloth. She says, "Citizen, you have been visually accused." You sit up. She explains. You were seen glancing at a member of the former nobility with emotion. You pause. Emotion. She nods gravely. Your eyes said, "Too much." You groan. Is there a poetry form for that? She shakes her head. There's a blindfold. You thought poetry would be the end of it. It wasn't. Now it's your eyes. Apparently, they're saying things. You are escorted, blindfolded, through the streets of Paris, bumping into fruit carts, muttering apologies, and twice being mistaken for a street performer. You're taken to a modest stone building with no sign, only a plaque that reads, Department of Visual Intent Interpretation. You mutter. That sounds fabricated. A guard corrects you. It was last week, but it's official now. Inside, the room is dimly lit by candles. All faces are shadowed. Everyone is squinting, on purpose. You are seated before a panel of 3. One has a monocle. One has 2 monocles. One refuses optics entirely. A bell rings. The lead examiner speaks. Citizen, you are here because of an unauthorized gaze. You stammer, I didn't mean anything. She leans in. We know. That's what makes it dangerous. You're handed a parchment. Preliminary charges. Eye-based ambiguity in a politically sensitive zone. You glance up. Someone gasps. There. He did it again. They place a soft black cloth over your eyes and ask you to describe what you saw during your controversial look. You say, a woman, red gloves, very symmetrical posture, possibly a duchess. A murmur. Someone scribbles, symmetry fetishism? You are then guided to the line of sight reconstruction booth, where sticks, string, and small figurines are used to reenact your eye movement frame by frame. It looks like medieval laser tag. After 3 hours, the conclusion. Possibly wistful, borderline romantic. Suspicion warranted. As punishment, you are issued a corrective accessory, the ocular neutrality veil. It's basically a thin black ribbon you must wear across your eyes in public, unless actively reading state documents. You are told. It's not a blindfold. It's a lens of humility. You are also handed a scroll titled, How to See Without Projecting Ideology. The tips include, look at walls. Walls are safe. Avoid statues. Too evocative. Never make eye contact with children. They're too symbolic. Trees are fine, but not if they're swaying. You leave the department with your veil in place, bumping into exactly 3 revolutionary goats and a mime. Back home, you sit by the mirror, trying to adjust to peripheral vision life. You write in your notebook, accused of emotional glancing, past stick string simulation. Now, we're state-approved visual filter. Miss seeing faces. Starting to understand the comfort of bricks. You sigh and reach for your candle. But then there's a knock. A scroll is shoved under your door. You crawl to pick it up. Congratulations. You've been selected for the Ministry of Dance Corrective Action. You exhale. Not again. You mutter. All I did was walk. A whisper answers through the window. But it was in a rhythm. They didn't recognize. You walk funny. Apparently, you never thought much about it. One foot, then the other. Repeat as needed. But here, in revolutionary Paris, even your gait can be a crime. The scroll didn't mince words. Citizens' locomotion style exhibits residual old regime poise. You arrive at the Ministry of Dance Corrective Action wearing your visual neutrality veil and your best, I'm just a confused peasant face. Inside, a man with elaborate elbow ruffles greets you with a bow that somehow critiques monarchy and welcomes equality at the same time. He says, "Welcome to Step Re-Education." You're handed a small wooden block labeled Gait Audit Token. He explains, "You've been observed walking with suspicious symmetry and insufficient bounce." You say nothing. He gestures you into the Rhythm Correction Hall, where others like you shuffle in deliberate, over-adjusted motions. One man is skipping in slow motion. Another is waltzing diagonally. Your assigned instructor wears a sash reading, Certified Movement Deconstructionist. He claps once. Today, we teach you to dance like the future, chaotically, but with purpose. You are given a pair of socks with tiny bells. They jingle when you step. This is how they track unexpected obedience. The training begins. You are taught the following official moves: Liberty Lunge, the Egalitarian Shimmy, Backpedal of the Masses, Revolutionary Heel Twist. You try your best, but halfway through the group routine, you trip during the Equality Shuffle and jingle out of sync. A buzzer sounds. You are assigned a new duty. Participate in the Freedom Dance Marathon. The rules: must dance continuously from sundown to sunrise. No repeating moves. Smiling is discouraged. You're placed on a platform in the city square. A crowd gathers. Someone begins to play an accordion ominously. The clock strikes sundown. You start with a safe jig, then a hesitant waltz, then desperation freestyle. You invent a move called the contrite crab, which involves sideways shuffling and apologetic eye contact. It gets applause. You are told that's suspicious. By hour 3, your arms are noodles. By hour 6, your feet are 2 rebellious bricks. At dawn, a bell rings. A man in crimson stripes announces, "The dancer has survived." You collapse. They give you a towel and a cup of lukewarm people's broth. You are awarded a ribbon, physically aligned level 1. It smells like feet and triumph. You limp home. You write in your notebook, "Walked wrong. Trained to walk worse. Invented 2 dance moves. Danced all night under watchful accordions. Earned my socks." You hang the ribbon beside the others. You close your eyes and think, "Maybe tomorrow I'll just roll everywhere." Then a whisper from your doorframe, "Tomorrow, bread consumption compliance begins." You pull the blanket over your head. Please, not the bread. You wake up hungry, which feels dangerous. You check the wall, no new posters. That's promising. You boil some water. You sit quietly. You chew nothing. You breathe like a law-abiding peasant. Then you remember, you have a bread voucher. You won it for minimalist civic clapping. It entitles you to 1 loaf of People's Equality bread, made from flour, salt, and ideological unity. You walk to the communal bakery. There's a line, of course. You try to look casual, not eager, not dismissive. The woman behind you is humming the national anthem in a minor key. Inside, the smell of bread hits you. It's dense, heavy, slightly burnt, slightly alive. You receive your loaf, rectangular, identical to all other loaves, stamped with the official symbol, a raised fist holding a ladle. You nod your thanks. You exit, and you take a bite. You didn't mean to. You didn't plan to enjoy it, but you did. You chew 2 enthusiastically. A sound escaped your throat that could, if misinterpreted, be mistaken for pleasure. A passerby gasps. She yells, "Gluttony of the bourgeois." You try to explain. I was just very empty. Someone writes it down. A man in striped boots appears and asks for your mouth license. You don't have one. You are escorted to the Department of Culinary Decorum. Inside, a courtroom made of bread crates and sourdough benches. She sighs. We must. A woman bangs a baguette on a table. Citizen, do you deny savoring a regulated carbohydrate? You whisper, it was. Reflexive. She sighs. We must now assess the sincerity of your blandness. You are handed a bowl. Inside, soggy boiled pamphlets. You are told, this is your sentence. 7 days of contrition stew. You stare at it. The ingredients include pulp, printer ink, and sorrow. You take a sip. It tastes like yesterday's disappointment. You are then instructed to write a letter to the bread you disrespected. You try. Dear Equality Loaf, I bit you too boldly. I forgot to chew with reverence. I will never again seek crust-based comfort without permission. It is approved. You are handed a ribbon. Digestive discipline, level 2. You go home. You write in your notebook. Ate enthusiastically. Offended bread ethics. Consume boiled paper. Apologize to loaf. Rewarded with a ribbon that smells like yeast. You lie in bed. Your stomach grumbles. You're scared it's being too emotional. Then you hear it. Outside, a voice shouts. New alert. Smirking is now a form of passive mockery. You bury your face in your pillow. I don't even know how I feel anymore. A pause. Then you whisper, I just wanted a sandwich. You didn't mean to smile. It just happened. Maybe it was the absurdity of being forced to bow to a bread-shaped statue. Maybe it was the sight of someone dropping their emotional sincerity sash into a puddle. Maybe you're just tired. But you smiled. And in revolutionary Paris, smiling is evidence. The man standing next to you gasped. Then he leaned in, narrowed his eyes, and said the worst sentence imaginable. That smile lacked patriotic density. You tried to reply. It was more of a face spasm. Too late. A nearby steward snapped a finger. You were surrounded in seconds. A scroll was produced. A box was checked. And now you're here, at the Department of Facial Intent. The receptionist doesn't blink. Not once. You are handed a form titled Smile Index Declaration. The first question is, was your smile spontaneous, ironic, poetic, or subversively nostalgic? You check uncertain. The room gets quieter. You're guided into an evaluation chamber. A masked official points to a chair. Please smile. Naturally. You try. You really try. But when your lips move, something in your soul makes your left eyebrow lift. The official notes it instantly. That's a smirk. Weaponized ambiguity. You're asked to explain what emotion caused the smile. You say, I was remembering a joke. They say, history is not funny. You are assigned a neutralization mask, a linen covering for the lower half of your face, worn until the state deems your smile no longer metaphorically sharp. You are also sentenced to sincerity recalibration training. The workshop includes frown yoga, controlled blink therapy, exposure to extremely sincere portraits of potatoes. You sit in silence for hours, staring at root vegetables with no known opinions. You begin to question everything. By day's end, you are exhausted and emotionless. Perfect. You are handed a ribbon. Emotionally compliant, Class B. You are allowed to leave, but only after bowing without smirking. You pass. Back in your attic, you pour a glass of water, stare into it, and say to your reflection, this is who I am now. Then you write, smiled. Smiled wrong. Re-educated via frown yoga. Got a mouth mask and a ribbon. Potatoes now make me uneasy. You place the ribbon under your pillow. Then a knock. You freeze. A voice says, Citizen, report immediately to the Department of Silence Enforcement. You whisper, but I didn't say anything. A pause. Then the voice replies, exactly. You've been quiet, very quiet, mostly because saying things has historically gone poorly for you. But in revolutionary Paris, silence is not safety. It's suspicion. You're marched, without speaking, of course, to a windowless stone building. The sign reads, Department of Acoustic Intent. You don't say a word. You just nod. Apparently, that's phase 1 resistance. Inside, a man in a wool cloak says, Citizen, you've been accused of prolonged nonverbal neutrality. You try to respond, but he raises a finger. No talking. This is a listening environment. You sit down. A scroll is placed before you. Notice of suspected quietism. Below that, subcategories. Reflective rebellion. Passive defiance. Unvoiced elitism. Auditory apathy. You are assigned a seat in the silent evaluation room. It's just you and a large hourglass. A candle is lit. You're told to sit for 15 minutes without speaking, moving, blinking suspiciously, or emitting any sounds that could be construed as internal dialogue. You try, but your stomach growls at minute 4. Someone in the next room slams a bell. You are moved to stage 2 containment. Here, you sit at a table across from a man in a paper hat who stares at you for an unspecified amount of time. You are expected to maintain neutral face, but every second feels longer than the last. At minute 7, your left eye twitches. The man whispers. Unspoken sarcasm. You're handed a scroll of guidelines. How to be quiet without saying too much. Highlights include: do not press your lips too tightly. Avoid looking out windows. Breathing rhythm must remain non-poetic. Thoughtful nodding is considered semi-verbal betrayal. You are also given a passive voice recorder, a small wooden box worn around your neck that records ambient silence. If your silence becomes too emotionally charged, it squeaks. Yours squeaks. A lot. Finally, after hours of quiet tension, you're deemed moderately reintegrated. You're handed a ribbon. Cooperative silence, Tier 1. And a small potato with a tag reading. This is your conversational replacement. You walk home. You name the potato Maurice. Back in your attic, you write, stayed silent. Stayed wrong. Twitching is a crime. Issued a squeaky box. Adopted a root vegetable. You place Maurice on the windowsill. He says nothing. Perfect. You curl into your blanket. Then, another scroll. Slid under the door like it's too shy to knock. You unroll it. Alert. Unauthorized use of Latin detected in civic discourse. You frown. You whisper. Carpe diem? A gasp echoes from the hallway. He said it again. You said 2 words. That's all. 2 words whispered in the privacy of your attic. But walls in revolutionary Paris have ears. And occasionally, ears have informants. You said, Carpe diem. You were talking to your potato. But someone was listening. Now, you've been summoned to the Anti-Linguistic Subversion Tribunal. The building is ominously quiet. The sign outside says, language is power, and that's suspicious. Inside, a woman in a stiff cape greets you with a nod sharp enough to slice bread. She slides a parchment across the table. Charge, unauthorized invocation of dead tongues. You try to defend yourself. It was a motivational phrase. To Maurice. She raises an eyebrow. Latin is the language of secret alliances, ancient regimes, and decorative scroll borders. It is never motivational. It is implicational. You are told to write down every Latin phrase you know. You nervously scrawl, etc. Veni, vidi, vici. Lorem ipsum? Pax Romana? She gasps. He mentioned peace. You are labeled possibly Jesuit and sent to lexicon containment. There, you're placed in a small cell with 3 other linguistic offenders. One once wrote carte blanche on a shopping list. Another accidentally named their goat Maximus. The third? He sneezed in iambic pentameter. You are handed a booklet titled French Only, a Purity Primer. The rules include no foreign idioms, no multi-syllable flourishes, no quotations from philosophers unless they died violently, absolutely no poetry that ends in an echo. You are then brought to a stage. A crowd gathers. You are told, speak something, anything, and prove it's not coded. You try. I like soup. Murmurs. One official leans forward. Too vague. Could be metaphor. You try again. My name is not Maximus. Cheers. That's better. You are spared further punishment, but sentenced to a week of monolingual reorientation. This includes shouting common nouns into barrels, walking past dictionaries without flinching, being mildly electrocuted whenever you say, however. At the end of the week, you're exhausted, but officially linguistically simplified. You are awarded a ribbon, speech-safe, certified non-Roman, and a potato biscuit. Back in your attic, you write, said Latin, got detained, met goat namer, passed barrel noun training, unsure if I still like soup. You place the ribbon beside Maurice the potato. He seems disappointed. Then a knock. You open the door. No one's there. Just a scarf. Your grandmother's. You pick it up, blue-gray silk, soft as memory. Attached. Unauthorized fabrics investigation scheduled tomorrow. You hold it and whisper, not Latin, just longing. It's just a scarf. Soft, faded blue-gray. Edges frayed from love, not neglect. It used to belong to your grandmother. She used to wear it when baking, or crying, or humming songs that had no politics, only melody. You didn't mean to leave it out. But in revolutionary Paris, fabric remembers. You are summoned to the Committee for Textile Sentiment Regulation. The building used to be a silk merchant shop. Now, it's a courtroom lined with confiscated nostalgia. Quilts with floral patterns. Gloves with initials. One painfully sentimental baby bonnet. You clutch your scarf gently. A clerk in all canvas robes points at you. Citizen, declare the origin of your accessory. You whisper. It was my grandmother's. He gasps. Ah, inherited affection. Dangerous. You are handed parchment. Preliminary charges. Possession of unregulated fabric with emotional density. You are guided into the inspection loom, a large contraption that somehow combines bureaucratic intimidation with threat analysis. Your scarf is placed under a magnifying lens. The examiner hums. MMM, pre-revolution stitching pattern. Possibly pre-affectionate. You are asked to explain its symbolism. You say, it reminds me of baking bread without performance, of kindness without applause, of family that wasn't declared a faction. They nod, then sigh. That's the problem. You are sentenced to style re-education via fabric repurposing. Your punishment. You must wear your scarf every day for 7 days, but wrong. As a belt, a boot wrap, a dust cloth, a flag for non-flammable soup awareness. Each day a new misuse. They call this symbolic dissociation therapy. You call it grief. By day 4, your scarf smells like turnip broth and existential dread. But you endure. At the end, you are offered a choice. Burn the scarf publicly and be promoted to emotion-free textile tier 3. Seal it in a memory vault and never speak of it again. Transform it into a state-approved napkin. You choose napkin. They applaud your pragmatism. You are handed a ribbon. Accessory recontextualized level 1. And a form allowing low-emotion heirloom possession. Valid for 6 months. Back in your attic, you fold the scarf-turned napkin gently and place it beside Maurice. You write. Displayed contraband scarf. Completed symbolic dissociation. Chose utility over memory. Got a napkin. Still smells like her kitchen. You stare at the ceiling. Then whisper. She would have hated this. Then, of course, another scroll. Red ink. Too bold. Final notice. You have been selected for narrative evaluation. You read the last line aloud. Determine if your life fits a revolutionary arc. If not, reformat. It begins with a knock. Not a loud one. Just inevitable. You open the door. A man stands there, dressed in the full robes of narrative inspection. He holds a scroll sealed with both wax and judgment. He doesn't smile. He says, "Citizen, we are conducting final evaluations." You nod. He nods. You both already know. You're taken gently but firmly to the Bureau of Personal Plot Development, a marble building, though someone has scribbled "No Heroes Allowed" on the wall in red chalk. Inside, you sit at a small wooden desk. A single candle flickers. A feather quill awaits. Across from you, a woman in ash-colored robes flips through a file. It's your life. So far. She clears her throat. Your arc has been erratic. You nod. Too much compliance to be a rebel. Too much poetry to be pragmatic. Too many shoes. Too many ribbons. She leans forward. The revolution likes clear stories. You say nothing. She hands you a parchment. Final alignment questionnaire. Are you a symbol or a side character? The questions include: have you changed enough to be inspiring? Have you stayed confused enough to be relatable? Have you suffered? Do people remember you for something oddly specific? You write. I clapped at the wrong time. I invented a crab-like dance move. I apologized to Bread. She reads it. She nods. Then stands. We've decided. You brace yourself. She returns with a certificate. She presents it like a prize and a sentence. It reads, officially declared. Historical footnote, type 3, comic relief. You sign it. You're handed a final ribbon, functionally remembered, and a medal made of turnip. You leave the bureau. You walk home under a sky that has the decency to be quiet for once. Back in your attic, you sit beside Maurice, the potato. You hold your turnip medal. You place your certificate between your poetic compliance ribbon and your facial intent scroll. Then you write, completed arc. Not the hero. Not the villain. Definitely in the footnotes. That's enough. You lie down. You feel tired, but also oddly proud. You whisper, at least they'll remember I danced. Then, as your eyes begin to close, you hear a faint whisper through the open window. A child's voice reading aloud from a dusty book. And among the Revolution's strangest records, we find mention of a certain citizen who once wore soup on his head and accidentally rewrote the rules of applause. You smile. Gently. Just enough. And now, dear citizen, your scroll is complete. You've danced when you were told. Sat in barrels of regret. Spoken in rhyme to avoid exile. And questioned your own shoelaces twice. You clapped too much. Then not enough. You breathed on rhythm. You hesitated. You whispered Latin to a potato. But somehow, you made it. You are not a hero. You are not a villain. You are something far more durable. A curious little footnote in a loud, messy history. And that is quietly glorious. So now, let the banners fall. Let the ladles rest. Let the ribbons curl into drawers you never open again. You've done enough revolting for today. Close your eyes. Let your breathing slow. Let the silence be yours, not suspicious, not revolutionary, just yours. You are safe here, in this small, silly, perfect pocket of imaginary history. And as your mind drifts into sleep, May you dream of turnip medals, honest bread, and a day where no one checks your socks for ideology. Good night, comrade. You were exactly enough, just as you were.